Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Raquel Lee Las Vegas and it's me, Raquel Lee. Excuse the extremely stuffy sounding nose because the lovely weather that we have has now caused everything to get stuck right here. So I sound crazy, but we're gonna roll with it. Moving forward, hi, hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. So today I'm actually going to be talking about, this is somebody's current struggle right now. This is somebody's relationship that they're dealing with, and we're going to talk about it because this person's definitely going through the hardest part of it, which is making the decision on what is ultimately best for them. So let me go ahead and start, and you guys will start figuring out what I'm talking about here. So somebody I know has been in a relationship for like 7 or 8 years, and in the relationship, of course there was an issue where one of them cheated, but since then, and it has been a very long time since then, this person has changed their complete actions. And I've talked about this a little bit in another video, somebody with a similar situation, but the only difference is that person actually, the other person I was talking about, their situation was a little bit different, but they took the steps that they wanted to take, and in this current situation, this person is still kind of trying to decide. So since the cheating happened, they've, changed all of their actions and become just a more productive, stand-up, present person. A lot of creative energy, putting things into, things that really matter to them and working on their household. Okay, the person they're with, not so much. The person they're with is, from the sounds of it, because I haven't met this person, but people around me have, and typically express them to be a very quiet and reserved person. But then when I heard, and that's something I got after hearing what this person is going through with the individual I'm trying to describe, they just, from what it sounds like to me, they just seem to be stuck in a very immature, I guess just way of life. Like, dude tried to leave and she's, stopping him from leaving, like putting her hands up in front of the door saying you can't leave. But on that same, during that same stint and argument, she's talking down to him, telling him what he needs to do, telling him how he needs to act, why he's basically all the things that you're not supposed to say, she's saying. And he's in a rough spot. He's in the spot that I was in when I discussed what blew up in my face. And this is where things get to be a lot tougher for a lot of people to deal with. And I'm gonna talk about myself for a second before I jump back into what specifically he's going through, because obviously this is the female perspective versus the male perspective. I was staying in a relationship at the time because of the security of the relationship. We built everything, well, not everything. We built a good amount of things together, and that's how I was used to functioning, was with another human. So therefore, I felt like if I were to get rid of him, man, that means I got to start over. I got to deal with my car myself. I got to deal with the groceries myself. I got to deal with my house myself. At first, when I knew everything was going left and I just hadn't made that extra step to let go of it, I was staying because it was easier. It was comfortable. I didn't want to have to start over. I didn't want to have to pick up and do everything myself because it was comfortable. It was easy. And this is where I talk about, don't get stuck in those mindsets. because that's kind of where he's at. He's like, if I get up and leave from this situation, I'm basically starting from ground zero. And so he's paralyzed in his fear. Not saying that I've never been there, because obviously, like I said, we're talking about myself too. I was there. And it was without that person having made as much of a change as this person has. When I was dealing with my situation, there was no hope for change. There was no getting a better result. It needed to end, and it did, and that's what became of it. In this particular situation, he's done everything that he can do, in my opinion, as far as trying to make amends. He's done everything to make her feel as secure as humanly possible, because only a certain level of that is that person's responsibility, as far as whoever creates the indiscretion, because in this case, obviously it was him. But in any situation, when you're looking at your own relationships, if this is something that you're going through, if you've already made changes to consciously make better choices in your relationship, then you have to start paying attention to who it is you're dealing with and what they're willing to accept. Because, like I said, in his case, she hasn't accepted any of the changes that he's made, along with the fact she's not, from the sounds of it, she's not willing to compromise and work together to have better communication and better understanding of each other. And that's a problem as well. Communication is a big thing to me. If you're not able to talk to your partner at all, especially if you need to come together on something that, is something so big that changes the dynamic of your relationship, if you're not able to talk about those things in an adult way without yelling and screaming at each other and not dictating and more listening, if you can't do that, we have a big issue. Okay, they can't do that. I had already given the advice of try sitting down and laying it all out on the line. And instead of absorbing that and trying to become self-aware, which is what I feel like women in general don't do, but this woman in particular clearly did not do. And it's not something that just women need to do. Men need to do it as well, but women, I feel like, are worse at it. Women do not take time to self-reflect nearly as often as they should, and therefore they never think that they're wrong, which is yet another problem, because this would be that situation. She is the type to, again, how it was described, I don't know this person, face to face, like I've never met them, but from everything that I'm told, she is very, even if I can give you all the facts as to why you're wrong, I'm still going to argue with you and act like I'm right. Well, that's toxic in itself. From what I'm getting, it's a very poisonous, toxic situation. On its good days, it's good, which is great, but good is not great. Good is okay. That's all right. You're on an even playing field there. It's like it can go either way. If you're in a relationship, especially when you've been in one for that amount of time, you don't want okay days most of the time. You want to have good days. You want to be experiencing the best that you can every day. And why not be with somebody that brings out the best in you and not makes you depressed or sad or feel less than on a daily basis? Like I said, this goes for men and women. I just happen to be talking about this particular relationship, but like I said, apply this to anything. So, I kind of want, this video is more so because I kind of want to hear what you guys' opinions are of it. I've already said my piece on it, and I've also, made several videos about my opinion of situations like this, and I'm curious to see what you guys have to say. I also did another video which is in the process of being edited, but it's going to take a little bit because we kind of went all out with it, but it encompasses this as well. So, look out for that also. But in this particular situation, like he's kind of between a rock and a hard place. Like he genuinely knows in his heart that it's not right, that he's not feeling fulfilled anymore, that it's not as great as it could be. And but his issue is not so much that realization. His is more so, what is it that's going to get him to feel like he can get up and leave from that. In my case, it took me just being over it, and everybody gets there in their own way. In my particular situation, I had to go through a physical altercation basically before my brain could collect the fact that I really needed to let go of that completely, if that makes sense. Mentally, I had already separated myself from him and kicked him out when I was in that situation, which, like I said, it was like a week or two before the big scenario happened. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, it was the big secret video, so go back and watch it if you're trying to figure out like what all details I'm talking about. But what got me to that point, when the day that I kicked him out, I had come across something that I was already aware of going on, but I had just kind of reached my breaking point with it. But the thing was, I made the hasty decision of kicking him out and being over it, but I wasn't actually over it, because I would still be like, well, maybe he'll get it together and come back. Maybe he'll show up. Maybe I was still dumb enough to be like, oh, well, I kicked him out, but maybe he'll get his act together. And I would consider still being with him if he had. When I got to the point where I was completely done with it, it had to come down to a physical altercation for me to be like, okay, I really need to let this go. I don't want anybody to go through something or realize something that late, because like I said, it's not that I wasn't aware of it. I already had it in my brain and I already made the correct steps, but I had to take an additional step to make sure it was solidified and secure in the fact that I was like, no, I'm not going to take this back. This is ridiculous. I don't deserve this. I know what I am, and that's not it. Unfortunately, like I said, it was traumatic pretty much, but I'm just a different type of person. I was strong enough to get through it, not saying that nobody else is, but you don't want to learn that way. That's a really terrible, awful way of figuring something out. If you are able to realize all of these signs and red flags of what you don't appreciate and don't want for yourself when you're in a relationship, then cut it short before it gets to that point. That's my thing with it. Cut ties, let it go before it gets to a point where it is painful and traumatic to leave, if that kind of makes sense. Like I said, I know I've talked about this before, but to go more in depth on it, you don't want to have to go through some horrific experience to realize how much you really didn't need something. You don't want to wait until things catch on fire before you're like, oh, I should probably worry about the smoke that's coming out of that. You know what I mean? You don't want to wait till something blows up to be like, oh, I guess I should have dealt with that. You want to nip it in the bud sooner. So, like I said, I did this video to kind of shed light on their situation, give some feedback on my own, but obviously, like I said, I've spoken my piece on it, and I think it would be really beneficial for this person and possibly this couple to get opinions from people they don't know. So I encourage you guys to definitely leave comments below, or if you do message me, I will definitely share it with them, and we will go from there. This week, I'll probably be talking about relationships a lot, and it's just because a lot of things have transpired recently that I feel like need to be addressed and talked about in general. So that being said, inspire daily, empower daily, repeat that process once a day, every day. Definitely leave as much information as you want in the comments. If they see it, cool. If not, I will send it to them. But I'd like to hear what you guys feel would be another good way for him to be able to handle that situation and, get the courage and strength to either leave or figure out another resolution to make the relationship work. Because like I said, I would never tell somebody just flat out to leave. But I mean, if you've kind of reached your breaking point, what other options do you feel like are out there? And what do you think is another good option for him to consider? So, that being said, I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.